A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Nerf Secrets Revealed Aftersought. So for today's little demonstration on my entire Nerf collection itself, I'd like to go much smaller than what I typically do when it comes to sidearms. So in which case, introducing the Bowstrike. Yeah, as small as this little sucker is, it is in fact a fully functional crossbow pistol hybrid. However, you can probably already tell that it does not in fact perform in the same exact way as a traditional crossbow were, where if you pulled back on the strings, the bow arms would flex and then you place an arrow into it. But in this case, because of its pistol looks to it in general, mixed together with the crossbow styling, including the flip-up sight and the bow arms, which just simply deploy out every time you pull back on the priming rod, this does not work in the same way. The bow arms don't really add anything to the power of the blaster or the performance in general. But instead, after firing a dart, they just collapse. Everything does, so yeah. In general, I'd pretty much consider the Bowstrike to be a pretty good sort of sidearm in general, because after all, who doesn't like that action? I mean, the kind of transforming bow arms to it, I mean, now it's like a butterfly. As comical as that might sound, I mean, it doesn't really do any harm to it, but now that was unexpected. Wow, this thing has some pretty good twirling capabilities. Yeah, I understand. I've been doing it a little too often now. I guess it's kind of a requirement at this point, but to be fair, I do want to justify that fact because, after all, lots of people like to twirl their own sidearms, especially when used in a Nerf battle of any sort. So, of course, I like to test out the twirling factor when it comes to the usage of a Nerf sidearm, or basically something that can fire one shots or even more. But whether or not it can fire one shot or more than that is purely up to the design factor based on the blasters themselves. Now, there are in fact a lot of single shot blasters like this that do in fact incorporate the specific priming rod priming system, in which that you simply pull back on this and pull the trigger and fire. And that reminds me, let's try a little something different. You guessed it, the invisible attest. Yeah, okay, so not as powerful as some of the other blasters that I've already tested with the pistol or revolver capabilities or whatnot, but it kind of does the job for what it is, a pistol. But I will say that there is in fact a lot more that I could probably say about this, because an Elite XD blaster like this, these are some pretty serious colors. I kind of like this combination with the light gray, the black, or it's like a really dark gunmetal gray. It's not as black as some of the other things that I've found on other blasters, but because it matches up with this part of the grip here. It's a super duper dark gray, pretty much. Really close to black though, and of course in line with the cyan blue, pretty much. It's not as fluorescent or as high in saturation or as bright as actual cyan. If you're not familiar with that little color palette of it, then well, you'll probably get what I mean. But anyways, this kind of blue I really like. Almost as much as the actual blue for any Elite blaster, pretty much. In the dark blue, pretty much. This blue is pretty awesome. It's like an azure blue, or kind of like a cyan, pretty much. So the dark gray, light gray, orange, and light blue, pretty much, they pretty much go well together. Very well together. And there were a few other blasters that had these kind of colors on them as well, also in the Elite lineup. I will get to a few more of them later on, but of course, I could consider the Bowstrike to be a fairly decent sidearm. Its ergonomics are actually pretty decent. I can comfortably fit all 5 of my fingers on there, especially the thumb. And of course the pull is pretty easy, even with some of the tension that you could probably feel from the bow arms and the flip-up sight automatically deploying. But a con is that you can't really do the deploying thing unless you pushed it out like this without priming back the rod. But yeah, of course they're going to be sprung back into place. So, of course, if you want that to happen, just pull back at the priming rod and pull the trigger, and you pretty much should be good to go there. But all in all, the Bowstrike is pretty decent. A solid 7.9 out of 10 in general. And I would like to go higher on it, but because there are in fact a lot of other blasters out there that do have some pistol-like capabilities, I feel like saving some of the best for last. But in all terms, I will say the Bowstrike is pretty darn good for what it is. Coming soon on Nerf Secrets Revealed Aftersought will be an even larger blaster. Not quite as large as the Infamous or the Alpha Hawk, but still quite as awesome as you probably would expect. But if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.